What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Virzi Effect podcast show. My name is Paul Virzi, and you guys listening to episode number 482, and this is a very special episode to me because my guest and I have had some really funny experiences on the road. Cars running out of gas in Boston, but we've done so many sets together in New York City. You guys know her from her amazing podcast called Vag, which she does with Sarah Tolamash. Also, her great set that she had on Netflix, and also her new album, which is, I'm not even just saying this because like I'm saying it because of a guest. Her album, Baby Skeletons, is just some of like the just like edgiest but smartest fun fucking joke. My favorite, one of my favorite writers out there, Adrienne Iapalucci, is on the Virzi Effect, I think for the second time.
Yeah, I think the first time we did it was in Boston.
First time we did it was in Boston. Yeah, Adrienne is a New Yorker, one of the funniest. And the first time I met you, you and I were opening for Burr at a big theater.
Town Hall.
It was the first theater one that he did, Town Hall. And you got a guest spot on that. And you walked in. I was nervous. You were nervous. And then we kind of just did spots together in the city, all over the city.
Yeah, we did that show together. I was super nervous. I had won like that People's Choice Award thing that they did once. And I was super nervous at that show. And you actually were like, help me to calm down. Because that was like the first big show I'd ever done. And then we just did a ton of shitty shows in the city after that.
The funniest thing was Adrienne and I drive to Boston.
Oh, and God.
Literally we were a couple of blocks away. From the venue. And by the grace of God.
But we kept getting lost too.
Yeah.
We kept like going under that bridge.
Yeah, and I'm the worst with directions. Yeah, we kept going, like we kept circling. And then I swear to God, by the grace of God, the car conks out of gas in front of like a gas station, like in front of like, so I was able to roll it in. And then me and her walked over to the gig. And it was that place that was downstairs of a bar.
Yeah. What was funny too is that guy was like, you actually saved so much money in parking because your car just died in that gas station.
Yeah.
I think I left first to let them know what happened, and then you came after. But yeah, that was hilarious that we just died, like the car just died from no gas. I think you even said to me, why didn't you tell me to get gas? I was like, I don't know. That doesn't seem like my job as a passenger.
Yeah, you're like, Paul, it's your fucking car. Like,
it's so funny though. But you did save a ton of money.
Congratulations on the album, man. And I know it's hard for comedians to take, it's always hard for comedians to take, compliments and hear nice shit. But, and this is why your Netflix set got the attention that it got, and your album is getting the attention that it gets, because Adrienne is a joker. If you don't know her, and if you should, and check out her podcast with Sarah Tolamash, Vag, and all that stuff. But like, Adrienne is the type of comic that like, and this is what I love, and it actually inspires me too, when like you'll go on stage and truly, like, of course you care if the crowd doesn't, we all care if the crowd doesn't,
of course,
is not into it. But you just stay there in the pocket. You'll say some dark shit. You'll say what you feel. You'll say something that's against the narrative of whether it be PC or, oh, that's going to offend me. If you find it funny, and it's always funny and smart, everybody thinks it. And I think you're one of the most, underrated. But what's nice is you are getting the attention now. And I think all of these sets that are online, and that's the cool thing about online. Like, a lot of people, like with this pandemic, luckily you had something done. Luckily my special was done. So there are things that, like with clips now, like since the pandemic, and I mean, listen, I don't want to sound horrible because people died, but like things are going okay online, right?
Yeah.
And your podcast, I'm sure.
Oh, the podcast is doing okay, but I guess, this album, I taped it 2 years ago.
Right.
And then I ended up just putting it out because of the pandemic. Like I was going to tape a special last year, and with the pandemic, that was like not going to happen. So I was like, I'm just going to put this out. So I'm grateful that I did have something that I could kind of put out. But like you said, there's some people that just, didn't have anything to put out. And
Yeah.
there are like a lot of comics that have been able to really just build during the pandemic. And you're definitely one of those comics. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I think like my special came on Comedy Central, came out on Comedy Central November of 18. And people were hitting me up going, this is one of my favorite specials of the year. And I'm like, dude, that was 2 years ago. But it's like, I'm just able now with pandemic and everything with online, it's like things went viral on TikTok, things went viral.
Yeah.
And people are starting to see it now. So it's like, you can't be lazy, man. Like Andrew Schultz said it. He's like, if you were going to write a script, this is the time. If you were, that's why I built this like podcast thing. And like, I see you and Sarah hustling and everything like that. It's like, it's not just gonna open up again and everything's gonna be like, you have to like, all this is part of it.
I mean, so many clubs have, I think, closed, and I think it's gonna actually be harder, especially if you're not like a bigger name comic, because I think some places have closed and some of the clubs are gonna look for bigger names, I think, at first to kind of fill the venues, and it's gonna be a shift for a bit. I remember Roy Wood Jr. wrote like an article about that in the beginning of the pandemic, like, it's going to be a shift, and we're going to see what happens. But I mean, the good thing is a lot of comics just left New York and kind of quit. So like that was kind of good, just to get some of those comics out of here.
Yeah, well, no, I know what you mean. No, I know.
Like, personally, I would love it if the economy just tanked even more, and like the rent in New York City would just be like $400. Like, go baby go. I want every business to close. I want Manhattan to be a big parking lot.
Just 25 comics and
I mean, the way God intended. 25 comics in New York City.
25 comics that are like the great, the best comics.
That's it.
Yeah, no, I do. Like, it does have to suck if you were like, you know what, Mom, I'm moving out. Like in January, February, like I'm moving out, and then that shit hit. Yeah, it's.
I didn't even have a place to go back to. Didn't I mean, like, I wish I had a family in Kentucky. I don't. My mom lives 3 blocks away. What am I gonna do? Go back to living with my mom?
How is your family doing this? Like, do you get to see your family, or like, are they like? Do you have family members?
So my mom and sister both got COVID.
Like now, or they had it?
They had it. But, the weird thing is my mom said she got tested to make sure it was, I guess, gone, but she was still testing positive. So I don't think we realize how long people are still testing positive once they get it. And it was way after 2 weeks. It was almost like a month.
The people with the GI version of it, if it's like the stomach flu, it's dead, but it lasts longer in there. There's people that test positive up to like 30 days, but they don't have it anymore. I had it. Me and my whole family had it. The first, we all had it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we all had it like literally like the first 2 weeks like of March.
Jeez.
So we all had it. All 4 of us had it. I had it a little bit the worst. I was coughing, but like I had it like when it was like symptoms were still being figured out.
And it was brand new.
Brand new, It
was like getting the new iPhone.
And that's what I said. I said that on stage. I said I was waiting for that shit to drop like an album. I was
that's like, hilarious.
Yeah. And I got it, and then no smell, no taste. Stacy got it, the kids. But that was good though, Adrienne, because when I was done, I called my agent and I said, hey, and my manager, and I go, look, I have antibodies. I'm good. I go, if there are places that are safe or other states I could fly to. So I was able to go to like Utah and places like Texas and,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So it was like, in a weird way, it was kind of good to get it early. I have the antibodies. You never got it yet?
I never got it. I mean, unless I got it early on last year. I got pretty sick in about February, and Ari thinks I gave it to him. But I don't know. I think it was still bronchitis. But I got tested for antibodies. I didn't have it. But they said antibodies only last like 3 months. So,
yeah.
I thought I had it a bunch. That was the fun part of the pandemic, thinking you had it every day.
Oh my God, every day and then you start feeling, I was taking my temperature, and you know me, I'm fucking nuts with that. You
Of
know
course.
how
I
much,
mean, most people are though.
yeah, I mean, I'm a hypochondriac. Remember we were in, we did that gig, me, you, and
Chris
James
Lambert,
Goff,
I
and
think.
it might have been me, you, James Goff, and we were driving in the woods, and Chris Lambert was there too. Wait a minute, where was the one
It
where?
was me, you, and Chris Lambert that we were driving and we were lost somewhere and I was hysterical laughing and you were freaking out.
Yes, it was me, you, and Chris Lambert. And then I remember being in the kitchen and I kept talking about a headache. And I'm like, something's wrong. And you were
Every
like,
every time I've worked with you, you're dying. You'll be like, "What's this on my stomach?" I'm like, "I don't know, probably cancer. You're probably dying."
oh yeah, you were the least. You were like, you literally would say either you're dying or you're not. It just doesn't matter. Like that's it.
But you were never dying. But I get it being like a hypochondriac and worrying about stuff like that.
The funniest shit you said was when we were in the car with Chris Lambert and you said, Chris, you just look like you're loved.
That's right. About his childhood.
Yeah, because his parents like stayed together.
And his parents love him. They check in on him.
Oh, that's so funny. Shout out to Chris Lambert, funny comic, man. Chris got he actually got a part on Broadway in like a Broadway play, like a big one, right? And then pandemic shut it down. Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah, but yeah, it comes from like a good family. Both parents together loved him, and Adrienne just goes, "You look like you're loved," and he just bursted out laughing because you called it perfectly.
I think he was loved.
Did you watch the Super Bowl? Wait a minute. Here's two questions I have for you, and I don't remember this.
Okay.
Do you drink or you don't drink?
I'm not drinking now. I go through periods where I'm drinking and not drinking, so I'm not drinking now.
Okay, so all right. Did you watch the Super Bowl or no?
I watched a little bit of it. It was so woke and dumb. Like I don't even like the Super Bowl to begin with, but then watching it, I was like, "This is horrific."
Yeah.
When they were talking about that, my boyfriend was telling me about the female ref, and they were like praising her.
Yeah, the first female ref to be in a Super Bowl, and it's like, yeah, like why is that even highlighted? Like that's almost like
because it's progressive, I guess, because there's a woman doing it. Like there's a ton of little girls out there that want to be a fucking ref. Yeah, what a dumb thing. It's so stupid. It's like, oh my God, I wish I was 8 so I could become a fucking ref. This girl paved the way.
Susie, what do you want to do?
I want to be a ref at the Super Bowl. It's so dumb.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, is your boyfriend is a big sports fan?
Yeah, I mean, he watched it. He fell asleep through some of it too. But it was like so woke and gross where you're like, oh.
You're the best. That's what I love about you.
Come on, did you think it was like woke and annoying? I mean, I only watched maybe like 20 minutes.
We had a couple of people here that had also had COVID and they had antibodies, and their son is best friends with Lucas. So they came over. We didn't have a lot. I had like a little spread of like sandwiches and pizza and wings, nothing nuts, but it was more talking and socializing and drinking. I mean, the TV was up, but I just didn't pay attention. I thought some of the commercials were terrible. I thought the commercials were going to be even better this year. Like it wasn't great.
No, I forgot what the commercials even were. I saw a couple of them.
The Weeknd's performance was like,
I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Do you know he paid like $9 million of his own money? My boyfriend was like, for what? That was terrible. He was like, I don't know what he spent $9 million extra on. I was like, I didn't even see it. There was just a bunch of people dancing, he said, and they had masks on. The whole thing was dumb.
Do you live with him? And
yeah.
So you've been living with your boyfriend through pandemic?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how's that going?
We get along pretty well for the most part. I think the one saving grace is like having a car and being able to leave. Like if I was in Manhattan and just stuck in that apartment all day, I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
But we would go to my favorite park, Larchmont. I would just go there and just stare at the houses and pretend I was rich. That's my favorite thing, to pretend to be rich. Like poor people we'll trick or treat in the rich neighborhoods. I go walk in the rich neighborhoods like I live there.
I love how the neighbors are probably looking at you going, she's back. Look at her.
I know. I'm like, how come I haven't gotten invited to any barbecues? It'd be funny if they're like, where do you live? And you're like, oh, this little place, in the Bronx. It is depressing though when you like walk there, it's along the water, and then you come back to the Bronx and it looks like fucking trash.
Dude, Larchmont is no joke. I mean, we're in Westchester. We're more north, but like the water there and the houses in Larchmont it's really nice. You guys just go up there and hang?
I would just go up there, go for walks, bring the dog, and then I would just go by each house, guess how much it was, and then check on Zillow to see how much it was, see how far off I was. That's like my favorite game that I've done in the pandemic.
You really do that?
Yes, it's a fun game. I mean, they're overpaying because of the location, but they have no backyards. I mean, it's insane. $10 million gets you nothing in Larchmont.
No, and that's why I'm kind of up in the country. And I don't want to
but
say
where you live is gorgeous.
Yeah, I don't want to say the town, but I'll tell you, man, up here, it's like Larchmont, but in horse country. So
yeah, but with space, you have a nice backyard. You're not like right on top of people.
Yeah, Larchmont is like the most beautiful houses where you could like touch your neighbor's house.
Yes, it's ridiculous. They're gorgeous houses, but you're like right on top of each other.
Where would you? All right, let's say perfect world.
I'm rich.
Adrienne Iapalucci gets a check tomorrow for $10 million, and you can go and you can set up your life and home somewhere. Where are you going?
Somewhere in Westchester.
But you'd get land, right?
I would like a little land. I've lived like a fucking rat my whole life, like right on top of everyone.
How many dogs would you have if you had a giant yard?
If I had a giant yard, I'd probably get like 2 boxers with these 2 little dogs I have, and that's it. I love boxers.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get too many though, because people forget like you got to pick up all their shit.
That's true.
Unless you have like a maid.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you get a house like near where I'm at, and you have all that land, the dog actually can literally go into the woods and do it.
Shit, and then come back.
Like they'll run into the woods on the edge, and then they'll shit. And then they'll just come back, and you won't be in your yard. And they're shitting where the deer. Yeah, they shit where the deer do.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. So that's smart.
There's foxes, there's deers, there's sometimes little black bears. There's all kinds of shit out there, so that they just go over there, shit, and come back, and you're good.
Does Lloyd? He must go nuts when he sees other like deer and shit, right?
I mean, Lloyd has. The thing the only thing he can't handle is sometimes horses come. He loses his fucking mind when a horse.
There are horses in your backyard?
A lot, not in the backyard, but sometimes through the street. You'll see one coming through the street because there's horse trails, and this is a big equestrian, like a lot of like horse training and the jumping and all that shit. So Lloyd sees that shit, he loses his mind, but he can't handle when he hears like the UPS or the FedEx truck, something with the truck, and when they come in. So we got to watch him with that, but he's been really good, man. He's been really good. He chases the deer off, so.
He's cute.
He's the best.
He's really cute. I can't believe your cats are still alive.
16, they just turned. I just gave Stanley a fucking insulin shot before this podcast.
Does he have like cat AIDS?
He's got diabetes.
No, cat AIDS is a real thing. Oh. It's not like real people AIDS. It's like manageable, I think. He's
like Magic Johnson. He's got
He's just alive forever.
No, he's got, I guess cats get diabetic. So he would we just saw him running to the water and so he gets like shots, but they're doing good. And Lloyd is like, I don't know if you remember when we first got Lloyd. I actually talked to you about it. Stacy would call me when I'm in my fucking hotel in Chicago, and she'd be like, that's it. When you get home, like, get rid of him. He was jumpy. He was bitey because he just wasn't.
He was a puppy. He was young.
He was puppy, and he was like a wild dog from Aruba. So it was all this shit. And then at like 18 months, he literally turned into everything we ever wanted in a dog.
Yeah. He was just a puppy.
Yeah.
That's like all he was doing. Yeah. But like they're hyper. I mean, I've had instances where my boyfriend was at work and I texted him and I was like, hey, I'm overwhelmed and stressed. I was like, you have to leave and this dog has to leave. You both have to leave. And he was like, what? He was like, should I quit my job? I was like, I don't know. Do whatever you want. I was like, but both of you have to get out. That was like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's fucking hilarious. That's
And
fucking...
puppies, you forget how much work they are. And you're like so stressed out because all they want to do is play and then they're peeing everywhere. It's just like stressful.
Yeah. And we got and then my daughter has a guinea pig and Lucas has a guinea pig in their rooms. And so we got the guinea pigs are actually the easiest, but the 2 cats and the dog and the shots and everything is fucking nuts. But you know what, man? I don't know. My house would suck without these animals. Like animals are the best. Like just to have like when you watch TV at night and your dog, like people don't realize this is like the coolest thing about a dog, which changes your life. If you're watching TV at night and your dog just sits next to you and like puts his head on you or just is like with you, that feeling is really like underrated. Like that's like the best, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they have animals that are, for anxiety, and people like use it for when they have PTSD because they are therapy. Unless your dog's like a wild animal biting everyone. Do you know what I mean? But like when your dog is like trained and good, it's like they're really very therapeutic. Like you said, like watching TV at night and your dog just comes and sits on your lap. It's amazing.
Oh, when he comes with me to get the mail and shit, and he's like looking around the yard to make sure he's got my back. It's the best. It's the best. Are you doing any traveling as far as shows?
No, I was doing like shows, just kind of outdoor shows, but like all my shows that I had booked all got rescheduled. Everything like from last year. So we'll see what happens. Are you going to take the vaccine?
I think enough people would have taken it by the time I can get it because I have antibodies now. As a matter of fact, my antibodies stayed for 11 months still.
Oh, that's awesome.
We got you. Yeah. So we have them still. So right now I'm at the lowest time. Like they're going to teachers now. They're going to cops and all that stuff. So I think at the time I can get it, I think millions of people would have had it. So if people are dropping dead or getting all fucked up, I'll know. So I probably will, because I think that what I hope doesn't happen is they're saying that you might not be able to travel. Like they may do
without it.
Yeah. Like they may do a thing where you're not going to Europe or you're not going to, certain places without it. So if that's the case, then I'll just get the card that they give you and I'll do it. Like, are you going to get it or no?
I mean, I guess, like you said, I'm not going to be able to get it right away either. So if a bunch of people drop dead, I guess I won't get it.
If you haven't had COVID at all, your boyfriend hasn't had it either?
No.
And he tested for antibodies too?
He didn't get tested because he's never thought he had it. Okay. But I did think I had it and I got tested.
Okay. And not both of you?
I got tested twice and it was both times negative.
Yeah. Are you do you live in like that? Are you like one of these, like, are you scared or no?
No, I mean, I don't like socialize really. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone that I kind of, I don't know, like during the summer, I was like kind of seeing people outside. And then when everyone was getting really sick in January, then again, I kind of just stopped like hanging out and stuff. Yeah. Or around Thanksgiving maybe. But like, I go to the store and I'll go for walks and stuff, but I'm not like doing indoor stuff. Like I remember somebody asked me to do a show in Brooklyn in a basement for $20. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to roll the dice on that. Do you know what I mean? Like for 20, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't make any sense. How about you give me fucking
like $500 and make it worth if I do fucking.
I mean, $20 for a basement. You're like, how is that any different than like Anne Frank dying in the attic?
Yeah. It's
like, no thanks, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I turned down some gigs, not being a dick, but some people were like, hey dude, you want to drive 3 hours? It's like low capacity, so I could give you a couple $100. I'm like, dude, I'm not driving hours.
Yeah, you're like, I'll just stay home.
Like I'll stay home and like I'm
hang out with my dog and family.
Yeah, exactly.
It would have to be like really worth it. Like I told my manager that too. She was like, hey, do you want to do these 2 shows like in where was it, Chicago, and then I had to drive an hour outside of Chicago, and it was like terrible money, and I was like, I will just stay home. That sounds awful, even if there wasn't a pandemic.
Right. Yeah. And it's like the time that I'm going to put into that, like the time that I'm going to put into doing that, like the stage time is so, yeah. I mean, I like those, some clubs though in like Florida and Texas were like, when they were at 50% capacity, still looked good, you know, and
Yeah.
they're doing temperature checks at the door. They're spacing people out and stuff like that. And
right. But then you have some places that are not.
no. And there were a couple places where you're like, oh, you guys just don't give a fuck. Like, you guys are just like, I went to some states where, dude, I was getting mask shamed. Like, I'm not kidding you. I would go in the hotel and, you know, they put me up in like newer hotels and I had the mask. And I literally saw like this couple probably in like their late 50s and they're drinking wine and they like looked at me and they're like almost nudging each other. Like, look at this pussy. I'm not even joking. And I was just like, dude, I don't care, man. Even though I had it, I'm not getting anybody sick because I'm trying to get paid I'm doing stand-up. I need money. But here's what I didn't like, Adrienne. And I don't know if you know this, but there were people that were judging comedians and there were people that were putting shit out there going like, yeah, we know who you are and don't think we're not talking about it or texting about it. And it's like, first of all, you don't know anything about me. You don't know that I had the fucking virus and that I have antibodies in my family. Of course. And that when I go places, I'm still safe knowing that I can't give it to anybody. And by the way, just like somebody goes, yeah, those comics aren't like requested. So I was like, don't hate on me because a club wants me to go somewhere and I can go there. And by the way, nobody's getting money for fucking 8-9 months. So sorry that I need to, you know, make some money and I want to develop my hour. Cause like you, I was going to do my special too. And now we gotta wait. So it's like people judging shit, but they don't know.
Well, this is what I said, you know, cause like people of course are talking about, I'm like, I think everyone has to do what's right for them. This is like a time where like, you don't know what people's finances are. You have, you know, a house and kids, like everyone has to do what's right for them. It is really like you said, like I went and drove to Georgia to go get Peggy, my dog, and nobody's wearing masks. It is the wild, wild west down there. Like we drove on Christmas Day and I went into some place. This lady had a mask like down around her chin and she's talking to some guy and I was so mad. I was just like, and I had like no bearings of where I was. I go, what fucking state am I in? She goes, this is Virginia. I go, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Like nobody had masks on. Everyone's giving you dirty looks. And I was like, why do you not have your mask on? She's like, I have it on. I'm like, yeah, but it's like down around your chin.
Oh my God. Yeah. You guys drove that far to get the dog?
We drove 14 hours in one day. I mean, and no one's wearing masks down there. It's like insane, especially Georgia. No one had masks in Georgia or Virginia.
So then you slept there that night with the dog in a hotel or something?
Yeah. And then we took 2 days coming back. But that ride back, man, you were just like burned from being in the car. It's just like you're in a car for 30 hours. Like it was like 14 going there and about 14 or 15 coming back. And it's just like you're like a zombie.
Did the dog piss in the car?
No, we had brought a crate with us and we would, during like rest stops, put her in the backyard on a wee pen. She would pee, but she was like really good in the car. And then she came here and went nuts.
When she saw the other dog.
That first night back was the worst because my friend was watching Zuzu. We come in and they're just like, you know, they're not used to each other. It's like, we're so tired from driving. It was just like a nightmare that first night. And I was like, this was a mistake. Like right away, I'm just like, this is the worst decision. We shouldn't have done this. I go from 0 to 100 right away.
I love how you just turned it negative. You're like, fuck this dog, fuck this drive.
I mean, I've broken up with my boyfriend twice in the last, we've had her about a month. I'm like, you and her have to leave. So he came home and he's like, do I have to go? And I was like, no, I'm over it. But like in the moment, I'm so overwhelmed where I'm like, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, I could just live here by myself again with Zuzu. It was so easy. I'm like, I want my old life back. At one point I was thinking of just leaving everyone, like a mom that leaves her kids. And I was like, this is crazy. These are just dogs.
I see your boyfriend just pokes his head in. Adrienne, are we together today? Or?
I mean, it's so crazy. Like, because at one point this dog is driving you crazy, right? Just like peeing everywhere. And then you're like, I get why people drown their kids. Like, it's like, I was thinking about it. I was like, I could drown her and nobody even knows. And I wouldn't do it, but just that way out made me feel better.
So, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to talk to you about this. I want the people that don't know you, that listen to the Virzi Effect or other podcasts, whatever. When you got into comedy, because I was talking to Dean Edwards about this, and I never got into comedy to be like the guy in a suit doing late night, right? I never got into comedy to see the guy on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, in the suit and doing all, and that's great. I got into comedy because I saw Eddie Murphy stalking the stage and walking. You've seen me perform. I just have, I tell my stories. I'm animated. I walk around saying, guys like Carlin and Pryor. That's the comedy that I like. I do like joke writing, and I do, your style is so unique to you, and it's it could be dark humor. I've actually seen you be silly before too, so you have all of that. But was that just something that was your, I guess, sense of humor? And when you were coming up and you were like, I want to do comedy, was that always kind of the way, or did that, I guess, develop on stage, where when you were on stage, your persona, then those jokes would come and you're like, oh, this is kind of who I am?
It's funny, like I love watching you on stage. I think you have the best stage presence. You bring people in. Like I love watching you on stage.
Oh, thank you.
Because like you're so funny, and just like the way you could bring the whole room in that's something that I feel like I don't necessarily have. Like, I don't have that like stage presence that necessarily draws people in. So I guess I'm like kind of an acquired taste, but it's weird. I never really knew where I had this dark sense of humor from. And then a couple of years ago, a kid I went to grade school with killed himself. And me and my friends from grammar school were hanging out, and we all have the darkest sense of humor. I mean, obviously this guy killed himself. So it's like, that's kind of where everyone was so dark. And I was like, oh, I was like, I never really even remember that we had this dark sense of humor back in grade school. But like everyone that I went to school with had just like the darkest sense of humor. And I didn't realize that, because you're a kid. It was like up until 13 years old or so.
And what's interesting about that? It's almost like maybe you use that like when some awful shit happened or traumatic shit.
Definitely.
The way that you deal with it is to just kind of see some silly, even if it's dark and people go, oh shit, that's your way of dealing with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even going to therapy, I kind of figured that out. Just like, I guess it was like a coping mechanism when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't like abused as a kid, but like I definitely grew up around dysfunction. So that's kind of how I guess grew this sense of humor.
Yeah, that bit you did at the Cellar on your album with the kid, you're still looking for a missing kid, like 25 years
that
later.
missing kid joke.
And the missing kid joke, I mean, for you people, I don't even want to give it away. Just check out this album, Baby Skeletons. Is that? Yeah, it's so fucking, it's like, I don't even know how to describe, like every bit that I've heard on it, every clip I've seen on it, every bit that I've heard on it, I burst out laughing, and I'm literally just like, this is some of the best writing. It's so smart and good. And like, and you'll stand there and, I didn't know if you noticed this, but I noticed this more at the Cellar than other clubs. And I noticed it a lot in New York City. I noticed in New York City the last year before all the shit hit the fan, I noticed that they were really pulling back a lot. I'm doing this joke, WNBA joke now in the new hour. And just like this woman at the Cellar, just like this, shaking her head. And like anything that was like not that could even be seen as not progressive, I started to notice that like New York City was changing. And then I had some other comedians and bigger comedians that would try stuff out before a big show. And everyone's going, man, what's going on in the city? Like, and you were the comic that like, just, it was like, you almost kind of like leaned into it in a way. And you were like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to do the joke, because you're treating it like it's not a progressive time. You're treating it like you're in a comedy club.
Not. Yeah. I mean, I guess, I was hoping with COVID that because people were like dying and everyone was freaking out about it, I was like, oh, hopefully like the PC culture will die down once we realize like we've had this huge pandemic, a bunch of people have died, and it's been kind of awful for the economy. And I just thought like the PC culture would die down.
Yeah.
And I think because everyone had so much time behind the computer, it got worse. And I was like, holy fuck. I think it got better in the beginning a little bit. And then it just seemed like everyone's just digging into being like the wokest they can be. And I don't know, man. It's like, I am glad that Biden's president now, but I do feel like because these next 4 years are going to be so woke that like the next president's going to be way worse than anything Trump did. So it's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, just the level of woke is like, it's nauseating. And I think that's why people keep going back and forth or like to these extremes. And, you know, just watching that show yesterday, it's like, I don't know, man. They had like a poet on, and you're like, she's great at poetry, but like at the Super Bowl, it just like it seems so
Yeah.
forced to me. And it's like she is a great poet, and I appreciate what she does, but it just seemed forced at the Super Bowl. I don't know.
I agree with you 100%, Adrienne, and I'm seeing it with sports. You know, I used to watch ESPN sports highlights at the end of the night, and now when you go there, it's political. It's you know, it's talking about like what's going on, and they're horrified and they're mortified, and I'm going like, I just want to see if the fucking Knicks won, you know, and it's
everything is politicized, and I mean they made COVID like political, which is like insane.
It's insane.
It's like also too, if you look at the news and you'll say like, hey, I read this in the news, someone's like, well, that's actually like a left-leaning thing, and you're like, I don't know that. I'm not following what things are left or right. I just want the news. I don't even look for the news, but like if I see it in my feed, I'm like, oh, I guess this is true. And then they're like, no. Do you know what I mean? Like it'd be nice to just go to a place where like the news is the news. There's no like left or right leaning thing. And it's just both of the extremes are so awful that I am surprised there's not a bigger third party, you know, that's more moderate.
I can't believe you just said that, because I literally the other night we had people here and I go, why is the third party and the independent candidate having 3% of a vote when it's like they're kind of seeing shit down it's like you basically draw a line in the sand and you're one way or the other. And I got 2 little kids that are going to school and coming home and they're saying shit. And I'm kind of like, I'm trying to be, you know, me and Stacy are trying to be like, don't look at things like they're left or right. Look at things of like what you think is morally right, what you think is logical and makes sense. But like these kids hear shit. And you know, you said something before, which so Sal Vacano was on the show. And I was talking to Sal and I said to Sal, wouldn't it? I'm hoping that after this pandemic and everything, when we do get back, maybe because everybody sees how serious and horrible things are right now, that maybe when they get back into clubs, all that PC shit, maybe it'll go away. And some blogger, you know him, I'm not going to even mention his name because I'm not going to give any kind of, but that person saw that conversation with me and Sal and goes, wow, how can your mind even go there? How could somebody's mind even go there? And then I tried to engage for a second. And then my people hit me up and like my people that were like on my, you know, were just like, Paul, like, don't even, it's not even worth it. And it's like, so you mean to tell me that I'm talking to a friend of mine on Zoom and I'm talking about something fucking positive? Like maybe people can fucking take the stick out of their ass when they go to a comedy club and drink. And you may hear a joke about cancer or you may hear a joke about drugs or disease and fucking who gives a shit?
This is the thing. If you start drawing lines for everyone's personal things that affect them, what are you going to be able to talk about? Honestly, like everyone has been affected by 5 or more things probably.
Yep.
Death, COVID, suicide, cancer. I mean, like it's all stuff that we're all experiencing. So, I mean, I did have that stuff too. Like I remember being at the Cellar and doing a school shooting joke, and like a couple of times people have gotten kicked out, but this one particular group of people like waited outside after the show. And this girl was like, I think you have potential. Like, why are you doing these jokes? And I go, hey, I respect your right to not like it, but I'm not going to stop doing the jokes I want to do. So don't even waste your time. But it was like, I think people feel like they want to change you. And it's like, I don't know, man, I'm not running for office. I just want to do jokes in a comedy club. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying this stuff in the middle of a fucking, I don't know. It's just like, it's so weird that people can't just leave jokes as jokes. And yeah, engaging with anyone is almost never worth it. No one ever has I mean, it's rare if you ever talk to someone online and you're arguing with them for hours. No one ever goes, hey, I never thought of it like that. Almost never. So there's no reason to even engage. You're better off just not saying anything.
I learned that. I learned that the hard way, you know, and you know me, like from back in the day. I'm definitely like, I was like somebody that like that would hit me hard just because I'm like, you don't know me. And I would want them to be like, if you fucking knew me and talk, but you don't. So instead you're being a dickhead judging me, but you can't win that. You're never going to win that. And I've learned that when you just like tune those people out. So that one guy who went on there or whatever, I just blocked him. I never see his stuff. And
better off.
Yeah. And it's cut these people out. And just, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And, you know, yeah, it's a really weird time, but I'll close out by saying this. The comedy community is lucky to have you and people like you, because as long as people like you, me, our friends, our people that we know that go on stage and do jokes, and some may be dark and offensive and some may not. Some may be silly and goofy, and some may hit somebody hard because they lost somebody to drugs or cancer. As my mother had cancer. My brother-in-law lost his life to drugs. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do a joke and say it, but the fact that people like us and yourself are not going to change, that's the difference. We have a big problem when comedians start to conform to that. Like when comedians start to go like, all right, man, I don't want to offend, so I'm not doing that joke. Or when that happens, we're dead. And I think the fact that you are doing what you do, your writing is incredible. And where can people that are listening to this find all of your stuff?
Well, Ari just put out my whole album on his podcast. So if you go to Skeptic Tank, you can go listen to it for free. And if you want to donate, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. Instagram, just my name, Adrienne Iapalucci, or Twitter, Iapalucci, Veg Podcast. The Degenerates on Netflix.
Yeah.
I think that's about it.
Yeah, check Adrienne out. The Degenerate set on Netflix she had was great. Baby Skeletons is the album. The Vag Podcast with Sarah Tolomash, another super funny comic. So check all of Adrienne's stuff out. She's so funny, and she just doesn't give a shit. She's gonna say the jokes. And when you listen to Baby Skeletons, you will know what I'm talking about. Adrienne, we got to do this more.
Yes, it was so nice seeing you.
Yeah, always so nice. And maybe we'll get the dogs together one time. But
yes.
I will see you soon, guys. Get the Virzi Effect podcast where you get all podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. Check out my new podcast with Bill Burr called Anything Better, iTunes, Spotify, and my Patreon, Gun to Our Heads. And March, I'll be in the Orlando Improv. The 24th, and then the 25th of March, I'll be at the West Palm Improv. Just got Wise Guys in Salt Lake City added, a couple others added. Go to paulvirzi.com for all those shows. Get me on my socials. I'll see you guys next week.